Do you ever, like, go down to take an hour-long nap, and then you set an alarm, you wake up with the alarm, but then you're like, I'm still really tired, so you say, fuck the alarm, and then you go back to sleep, and you wake up, and it's been 3.5 hours, and you've still done no homework? So you make a movie review? You ever done that? That's about how my night's going. Coco is the newest Pixar animated film and is also Lee Unkrich's second time working with the studio. It is directed by Lee Unkrich and stars a bunch of people's names I don't know, but Gael Garcia Bernal's in it. And he's that guy that won the Golden Globe for that show that no one watches. So, joke's over. So, Pixar is obviously, they had a golden age, we saw it, and it's over. And in recent years, I think people have come to terms with that, people have accepted that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people have dropped expectations and quality of Pixar films, despite the fact that they have released several more mediocre or, like, okay movies within the last couple of years, primarily since, like, 2010. But that's not to say they don't come along with the usual great great movie every now and then, like Inside Out back in 2015. And I would definitely say that this is the best movie they've released since, like, 2010 or 11, when they made their last really great movie. It might have even been Toy Story 3, which is Lee Unkrich's movie. I would put this on par with Inside Out, or maybe even a little above. I haven't seen Inside Out in a long time. I just remember being a fan of that movie. But I really, really like this movie. I like this movie a lot. It does some really great stuff. And it's going to be interesting because the negatives you're going to hear me talk about are kind of strong. But every time I think about this movie, the positives that I have for it come out on top. Almost every single time. And the feeling that I had leaving the theater at the end always comes out on top more than the things I disliked about this movie. So I want to talk about what I really liked about it first. I'm gonna spill a little bit over this movie. So, everyone and their mother is obviously talking about the animation in this movie, and that's because it's impossible not to. It is what I find crazy to look back at a movie like Toy Story, which is much better in terms of storytelling than this movie, but it's Toy Story. But you look at, like, the animation of that movie, which came out in the 95, 97, something like that, and you look at it now, and it really represents and signifies how far we've come technically in Hollywood, because it's utterly insane. It's just like the amount of animators and the teams that have to work on this hours and hours on end, diligently and with no break, no rest, has to be pure and utter lunacy. And that's not to say every animation company does that. The ones that care do, not like Illumination Entertainment, which just draws shit and then puts it in a computer and goes, there you go, that's animation. Or the Emoji Movie, that's like, we'll just fucking put emojis on the screen and people will be like, yeah, that's good animation, because look, they're moving. But, I mean, every minuscule detail in this movie is animated with the same amount of respect to the larger details. Like, the little tiny details on the dog that make you understand that he's a street dog, compared to, like, how the entire giant money shot of that city looks is presented with the same amount of respect, because they care about how the entire movie looks, not just a few select shots. Everything has to be perfect and down to the wire and how everyone wants it to look. And that's why the animation is being so heavily complimented in this movie, because it deserves to be. It is an utterly stunning and beautiful film, and if you're gonna get out to see it for any one reason, I think that's good enough for me. The music is really, really, really strong in this movie. That the singing itself and the score, which is composed by Michael Giacchino, who's known as one of the best animated composers of all time. He's not as well known for his live action scores as he is for his animated scores, like The Incredibles, which is fucking iconic, and Up, which won him an Oscar, and Ratatouille. He's pretty well known in that regard, and he does a great job yet again with this. It all feels fresh. It all feels new. The songs are catchy. I really enjoyed them, but the music was great. It almost feels like a movie Lin-Manuel Miranda worked on, but it's not. The voice acting for the most part is pretty good. It's not always on, but it's often on. It's always on with Gael Garcia Bernal. He does a fantastic job. He's always on top of everything, and the ones that are a little on and off are Miguel and Imelda. They have moments where they're kind of off, but that's usually in the moments where Pixar goes, okay, well, sure, we can make a great film for adults, but we are, an animated studio that makes movies for kids as well, so we have to have, little moments of child humor, and those pop up every now and then, and us as, more matured viewers go, okay, that's passable. You're allowed to have that when you're fucking Pixar and you're making movies for kids, and that's usually where the voice acting is kind of strange or, off-putting, but it was fine. Like I said, for the most part, it was always pretty on. The direction of this movie is great. Lee Unkrich clearly had this vision of what he wanted this movie to turn out like, and he's slowly but surely becoming a talent in the animated industry to notice, and when he's coming out with films to start pointing at and going, we should probably go see that. And a lot of people go, well, what kind of animated directors are known? How about John well, that's a bad example. Brad Bird. I don't know, I think this guy is definitely, or Pete Docter, I think this guy is definitely someone to be looking out for, next time you hear about a movie coming out directed by Lee Unkrich, after this and Toy Story 3, yeah, I think he's definitely one to go look at his movies, but he does a fantastic job with this movie. You can clearly tell that he knew exactly how he wanted this to turn out, and how he wanted it to look, and how he wanted it to feel, and he does accomplish that goal. So let me get into the negatives, because it's weird, to talk about some more of the positives I have, I need to talk about the negatives. The one that I found to be most prevalent, but almost not, in a sense, is it's fascinating to me how this movie manages to be original and creative, but also sort of textbook and foundation at the exact same time. There are a lot of original concepts and creative concepts that come from Lee Unkrich. And again, like I said, you can tell he had that vision for how he wanted them to come through. But the thing is that those rest on top of this very kind of basic foundation and almost template that more animated movies are beginning to use as we move further away from the golden age of Pixar. And that's a lot of why the golden age of Pixar was so well regarded. In a sense, it was setting up this template that we see now. And not all of those movies use it, but when you go back and look at those movies, they follow that template in a sense, but those movies were developing it and putting it where it is today and making animated filmmakers go, well, that worked for them back then, let's just fucking do it again now. And what that template is, it's essentially like a plot graph, but their own plot graph. They have places in the plot where specific things happen, and it's beginning to just, every movie they have, the same exact things will happen. When the low point hits, it feels the same almost, and it's weird. It's off-putting, and it's a little jolting, and but it's noticeable. It's less noticeable in this movie because of the more original ideas and creative concepts that you're distracted by. But when you start kind of peeling those down and sort of taking a look inside, you sort of see that foundation. It's there. and part of that makes certain elements of this movie predictable. There's one that's not, and I admit to being surprised, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, because I thought I was being smart in the beginning, and I was like, oh no, that's fucking it. And then, no. But, like, when you're looking to see what will happen by the end of the movie, chances are you can predict that, and how they will lead to that, and how events will lead to that, due to your knowledge of previous Pixar films. And that's the unfortunate truth of, I think, after 2010, Pixar ran out of some storytelling originality because they had all these great original ideas, and then there was, like, this kind of brick wall point. And they just started making sequels and prequels and bullshit. But this movie, again, has a lot of those original ideas and concepts, but it does fall back into the realm of template-based in several parts, and it is noticeable, especially if you've seen previous Pixar films. The other thing, and this very well could have been, I was kind of tired when I saw the movie, but the first act and part of the second act started to lose me a little bit. I was losing interest in the movie. There were some pacing problems. That's where the voice acting can be a little on and off. And I don't know, it was strange feeling. Like, it wasn't a bad part, but it wasn't as good. Because when you finish the second act and the third act, it's great. And that's what leaves you with the fantastic feeling when you leave the theater. And that's the most well-done part of the film. And the movie is worth it to get to that point. I think it completely redeems the rest of the movie. But I do admit to sort of, like, shifting in my seat a little bit during the first act. Just kind of like... You know, I don't know. I was a little bit, like... I don't want to say bored, because I don't think that's the right word. But I wasn't into it yet. I wasn't invested into the film. It took a little bit for that to happen for me. There's a exact point in the movie I could turn to and say that was it, because the movie gets kind of ballsy, actually, for a kids movie, at least at a point. It does something that I was like, wow, all right, that's interesting. That's a call and a half. But again, like I said, with those two things, with the template based, the original ideas and concepts always come out on top for me. And with the first and part of the second act not being that interesting, the rest of the movie comes out on top for me. Every time I start thinking about negatives with this movie, sorry, I thought I saw something. I always start noticing the positives again, and liking the movie again, and enjoying it in my head more. And I think it's worth seeing, especially if you're a Pixar fan. This movie will absolutely win Best Animated Feature. There's no fucking way it doesn't. There's nothing that's running against it, unless there's some anime movie I don't know about. Which I don't know. I don't know about any of that. They always show up at the Oscars, and I'm like, huh? I don't know anything about those movies. It's not that I don't think they're great. I'm sure they're great. I've never followed them or really seen many of them, if any. I don't know if I've seen any. And that's just kind of on me. It's more of a lack of interest thing. I know a lot of people are really into those movies and really love those movies. And I'm sure they're great. They're just, I don't know if they're my kind of thing. They're also very hard to find. They're not easy to watch. So, there's my excuse. Anyway, like I said, I would definitely recommend getting out to see Coco. It's going to win Best Animated Feature. It helps that this hasn't been a great year for animated movies, but this thing doesn't have any competition. There's no fucking way anything else wins. There's just no way. So, what did you guys think? Have you seen Coco? Have you not seen Coco? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to try and get out and see some more Oscar movies as soon as I possibly can. A week from today, The Disaster Artist comes out here, and hypothetically, not hypothetically, that's the wrong word. Theoretically, The Shape of Water is supposed to come out as well, but there are currently no showtimes for that yet. Darkest Hour comes out December 22nd, and there is still no word on Call Me By Your Name. I have no idea when that movie's coming out here, but there's nothing for it yet. I'm counting down the days until I'm able to see that, and I don't know what I'm counting to. I plan on watching Mudbound on Netflix just for the sake of seeing the quality of it. I've briefly mentioned it in my previous Oscar predictions videos, sort of saying I think I don't know how much of a chance it stands simply because it's Netflix, and they've never awarded a Netflix film, and I don't know if this is going to be the first time they do it. But I do want to see it just to see it. I've heard really, really great things about it, and it's got a great cast, great director, so I do really want to see that, and I'll probably do a review of that when I watch it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.